All right, welcome back to another episode of Baxter's Buzz, the Cool Motif edition. I am your host, Baxter E. Hall, and I have of two familiar faces with me today. My Cool Motif partner in crime, Brian Gass.
What's up, Beck?
Hey, and Tiana Starks. Hello. Um,
Hello.
I didn't know if you were gonna say anything. Um, so I'm driving in the car. I'm listening to a playlist. Even though it's on shuffle, Bobby Brown comes on twice in a row, and then ironically Whitney comes on after that. But that's neither here nor there. So the first song that comes on my playlist is Every Little Step, and so Zara is 7, and I'm always so proud of her taste in music. And this is how I know she really likes a song or not. She'll say, Daddy, is this on my playlist? And then if the answer is no, she'll say, can you add it to my playlist? So like I have a playlist, like a Zara's playlist, right? And so we're listening to Every Little Step. And she's like, can you add this to my playlist? And I said, yeah, I'm like, okay, And then the next song that comes on is My Prerogative. And she goes, is that the same guy from the last song? Like she was able to pick up on the tones or whatever. And I said, yeah. And then it just kind of like a light bulb went up, and I was like, and we'll get into why. I'm sure you guys will have some similar things to talk about. But I was like, man, the next time we record like the Cool Motif, like we need to talk about these two songs and kind of dissect them together, right? Because there's almost like in juxtaposition in a number of ways. And so let's just jump into it. I just want to kind of tell you kind of where I was thinking, and then I started thinking about the songs, and I was like, man, this would be a really fun one. So I'm hoping that this is as good as I anticipated. So Tiana, jump in there and just tell me kind of your thoughts from like when you first remember the song, and then like as you started to study and prepare for this podcast, like kind of your like more mature, older, wiser ear kind of impressions of them.
Okay, so first I have to be honest. I don't know how much studying I did. I mean, I did, play the songs back, watch the videos, did a little bit of research. But I have to say, when we did our introductions, I was frozen, but I was trying to say I'm a little, what's the word? I don't know. You guys are so much more
nerds. I've been called a music nerd before, Tiana. You're not going to insult me by
myself, but like you get really technical and into the music. So I don't know if I'm going to have that level of insight to bring. But to answer your question, I remember very vividly as a kid the Every Little Step video. I thought that video was so cool because, I was a dancer and thought, I do remember seeing that video and being like, oh, that's cool. And like the Every Little Step in the background. I don't know why I thought that was cool, because when I was looking at it now, I was like, why do they have that? But I do remember as a kid being like, this is cool, and being in the house on Wyoming and like doing the dance moves or trying to anyway. My Prerogative, I don't really remember that at the same time as, it doesn't feel like it's at the same time. It was at the same time as Every Little Step. I feel like that's kind of a song that, I don't know if the sound has necessarily aged well, but the song has. Like, it is a song that people play, that you hear often because of I think the message. And so over the years, I just remember hearing that song.
Yeah.
Brian, what about you?
Actually, my first memory of this song is that video as well. Like, this is very, that time period, like MTV was how you got records on the charts and everything. So that I have vivid memories of that video, and also thinking it was really cool. Like, it was, and you're right. There's nothing cool about what they're doing in, like, through a current lens. He's wearing spandex shorts with suspenders, dress shoes, and red socks, yet was the coolest guy like ever in that video. So that just kind of shows just how kind of charismatic Bobby Brown was at that time. It might have been cool. I don't know. I was 8. Who knows? I didn't know what was going on.
Nobody was wearing suspenders. I think it's safe to say, but one of the swaggiest of all time for sure. So he just he made it look cool.
Yeah, and not a kind of a swaggy song either. I mean, sure, Baxter, I'm sure we're getting the lyrics in a little bit. It's very much a kind of almost a vulnerable song for Bobby Brown, especially with everything else that was released on a single. That album was a lot more kind of, especially My Prerogative, just is going for it, how confident and like, you can't tell me what to do. It's the whole message of the song, right? Like that versus trying to prove to a girl that he's worthy of being around. So
yeah. So this is Bobby's second solo album, which for years and years and years I didn't know that he had. We were babies at the time, especially Tiana. But he leaves New Edition, right? He's there for a short stint. They kind of continue to kind of roll on without him, right? And then he goes solo, and he drops this album called King of the Stage, which the 2 songs that charted from that album, I think my ears are still bleeding from listening to them like yesterday and today. Like, they're awful songs.
I tried to go back and find that album, and I had like just going through Apple Music trying to find it was difficult. Like, I was like, oh, probably the singles are probably in like his essentials playlist type deal. Nothing. Those songs aren't there. Nothing from that album. They pretty much ignore everything from that album in like his like greatest hits style playlist.
Yeah, there were no hits on that. But so in many instances, the album doesn't do well. He's solo now. And so what they do is they go to the sort of the kingmakers at the time, right? Which is LA and Babyface. And say, we need this kid to, we need him to be a star, the next star. So he's, so LA and Babyface are a huge part of the album, writing and producing on maybe over half of the record.
Everything but one song.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah. So and so they're setting the stage for Bobby to be Bobby, right? And in many ways, King of the Stage, that album title really was more suitable for this second album. This Don't Be Cool. But anyway,
they choose him. Like, how did Bobby Brown pop out of all of the New Edition guys? Like, I feel like Ralph Transbant was the guy. Like, I was only 4 at the time, but it seemed like he was supposed to be the one, yet Bobby Brown had I guess LA and Babyface at the time, like you said. They took him to the next level.
Yeah.
I thought about that too. And have you, do you have any ideas, or what are your thoughts when you ask yourself that question? Like, did you come up with anything?
No. I was just thinking, like, I don't know. I don't know if it was his image or, I don't know what it is, what it was about him at the time that made him.
Go ahead, B.
The one.
My opinion is always he was just the first one to leave that group. Because from what, especially record production and the record industry in the 80s was very much kind of like your manager chose your songs, like management took care of everything. It wasn't very kind of artist centric, where you're right, Ralph was the star of especially those early New Edition albums, right? Ralph was like Mr. Telephone Man's probably the only like Bobby song you can think of out of like those early New Edition albums. Bobby was just the first one whether he left or got kicked out, that's like up for debate across which Wikipedia article or magazine article at the time you want to read. But he was just the first one out and was able to work with different producers and different producers, writers, that kind of stuff outside of MCA was who New Edition was signed to during that early part.
So those are great points, B. What I thought is like I compare it to like Kobe Bryant playing ball. So there was his senior year, he went to high school in Philly, and he would go to the gym and he would play with the NBA players. And everybody knew this kid was 16, 17 years old, but like he's coming and like he's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that even though we didn't see it like performance-wise, they knew. But as talented as all of them were, if we're talking about the swag level, he has more than any of the other guys combined.
Well, just outside of that group, right? Like the charisma, like being that brash yet being so likable at the same time is a tough thing to pull off, and he definitely did during this time period. There are arguments can be made later on, maybe not quite as much, but yeah, definitely this time period especially was able to kind of have feet in both lanes there and ride that out.
Right.
Some people have it. I mean, and that's why they say it's the it factor, right? Some people you can just tell, like even when you're just having a conversation with regular people, like if you were a singer, you would be that person. Like,
And when I think about in my old age, when I think about music and I think about skill and talent versus like performance and on a charts or popularity, there's this thing I keep coming back to, and it's not completely thought out, but the greats have a way of translating their personalities to the records. There's better vocalists.
Yeah.
There's but they all can't. They all don't have anything that they can sort of almost make tangible in a way. And when I think about the greatest artists in any genre, you can kind of feel their presence through their music, and it's not just their technical ability.
Right. That's a good point, because the past two versions we've done here have been two great artists, great singers, songwriters, multi-instrumentalists. That's not Bobby Brown. But the songs that are on playlists that I have are these two songs and not the previous two that we did. So that tells you something. Like you can be, technically flashy, better musically. I enjoy listening to these songs and have for years, right? These are songs I, might be part of, like I grew up with them, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, every little step's been on like workout playlists, like maybe secretly for a while, but been on workout playlists for about 20 years now. So it just kind of speaks to, great music can be great music without being, technically superior, I guess.
There's moments. And I don't, and it's weird to me. It's like I feel like saying swag is such a dated word, so I'm going to give you an even more dated word. I feel like there's these moments where like certain artists like have the juice, right?
Yeah.
And it's
that is a more dated word.
Yeah. But apropos for when this came out, so we're kind of, it's on brand. We can go with that.
Yeah.
It's like it's like, man, these people, there's moments where just people can do no wrong.
But it's like music is supposed to make you feel a way, right? And that's the
Yep.
thing about it. Like the songs that make you feel something, and maybe it's not necessarily good. Maybe it's you want to wallow in self-pity or whatever it is that you're going through. You can relate to those songs in those moments. And then as time goes by, they become nostalgic. And so you go back to those songs, even if they are not the greatest song, they make you feel a kind of way. I think that goes to what you were saying, like with the artist being able to bring that out of the song and the lyrics.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give you the floor, Bryant. Just as you kind of dug in, like what were some of your initial thoughts as you kind of re-listened to? Sounds like Every Little Step may be something you listen to a little bit more frequently. So like when we start talking about the two together, like what were some of your like initial thoughts?
I mean, Every Little Step is very much a classic song, but also kind of a song of its time type of thing too. Like the instrumentation, there's not a real instrument on the song. It's all synthesizers, drum machines, that kind of stuff, but like expertly crafted by, we already mentioned L.A. Reid and Babyface were the two writers, producers on the majority of this album, which was kind of the time, you know, a lot of rolling drum machines. Everybody was using it across R&B, pop, like hip hop. Everyone was using like this same type of instrumentation for everything. But it's still, like Tiana, you mentioned earlier, it still sounds like good, like today. That was more my prerogative, but we'll get to that in a second. It's weird. This was not, you know, it's my favorite song on this album. It was like the fourth single off of this, which is crazy to think about now that you could have all of these singles off of one album. But this was the fourth one. Like Roni was the third single off this album, and that's not a single. I mean, Baxter, you said this on a couple other songs. You hear this song, it's a hit. I understand "Don't Be Cruel" being, you know, your lead single because it's the, you know, name of the album. You get people to go out and buy it. Why are you slowing down? Like My Prerogative was the second single. That should have been the lead single. That's kind of how you make your name on these kind of things.
The thing,
I'd be guessing.
My Prerogative made it to number one. All five of these singles charted.
was it, I mean, and how does that work? Because is it like just for that year? Because maybe I was looking at for that year, like literally, I literally just looked at this before we got on this thing.
Yeah.
Maybe, but they all charted. My Prerogative being number one for a few weeks.
Okay.
And then Every Little Step charting and being like number one on like the hot 100, like R&B or hot 200, whatever they call it.
Right.
But actually like maybe charting on the Billboard at 3 or 4. Like it was still pretty.
Yeah.
It was pretty high, but My Prerogative performed better on the Billboard.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I just looked at the entire year.
And
like,
they released singles like over a couple of years for this too. I think it was like 88 into 89. They were releasing singles for this. And a weird thing, the song that Bobby did with L.A. Reid and Babyface for the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack, they released as a single while this album was still out there, and then released another single, Rock With You, after all of this. So he squeezed out an extra single that was still a top 10 hit. Like he just had hit after hit after hit with this album. It was Take Control, was it? And it sounds a lot like Every Little Step. Like, go back and listen to that one. It sounds like pretty much the same song. They wrote it pretty quickly to get on that soundtrack that was pretty big, but no, it hit's a hit. So it's still another song that's on the secret playlist.
He had the juice.
He did, very much so.
He had the juice. So and I felt bad after spending a decent amount of time listening to these songs, because Every Little Step is like, this is one of those feel good songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
The video, he's dancing around. I mean, it's just like I showed Zara the video for the first time. She was just like, it's like he's copying Michael Jackson, you know, which is high praise from her. She says, it feels like he's copying Michael Jackson, but not really. I think that's like a perfect way to describe that, actually, because everybody's imitating Mike in some form or fashion at that time. But as I started listening to every little step, the more I listened to it, the more I thought about my prerogative. I'm like, this song is soft, and this song is like, it started to feel even more pop to me, and I felt bad because I was like, maybe I'm dissecting it too much, and I'm taking all like the feel good vibes away from it, and like, I'm like, so this New Jack Swing, and be somebody pull up the definition wherever you can find a definition, and I'll set you guys up in a moment. But the people that knew Teddy Riley was coming, he was on his way, right? He wasn't the guy you went out to at 87. He's not the guy that you go out to sort of make an album necessarily, but he had some hits already, and the people that knew. And I would say that the songs from this album that L.A. Reid and Babyface did were Teddy Riley light.
They were.
So
they were. I was thinking, did you guys watch the Bobby Brown biopic on BET?
Multiple times, and the New Edition one too. Multiple times. That was when that was on rotation. It's like, oh, well, we're about an hour, and I guess I can watch this for another, 4 hours. Yeah, my wife and I both really enjoy both of those.
Yeah, they were really, really good. But like to your point with Teddy Riley, like I can't remember exactly. I only watched it once, but I remember it. But how did it happen that Teddy Riley ended up being on it? Didn't like Bobby Brown request him, or like it was like this song wasn't working and they needed to have another song? What happened?
Well, he felt like he needed another song, although the album and the record label's mind was done. He was looking for something else, and so he got with Teddy Riley, and
after everything else was done, like everything was mixed, everything was and they went up to New York. He wanted to work with Teddy Riley and Aaron Hall, who was the other guy that stuck around in Guy. So
and so you think about, okay, Don't Be Cruel. That is the name of the album. It's the lead single. It was like, if I'm Bobby, I'm thinking, okay, we're close. This is the type of sound that I'm going for, but I just needed a little edgier, right?
Yeah.
It was too clean still.
Yeah.
It's okay. So who has the definition of?
I've got the Wikipedia article up now.
Okay.
So fusion genre spearheaded by Teddy Riley and Bernard Bell, popular from the mid 80s to the mid 90s. The hip hop influence that already seeped into pop culture was now going into contemporary R&B with dance pop as well. So drum machines, samplers that were being used across that type of music, and the move away from more traditional instrumentation.
Right. So the drums, right? The hip hop influence.
It's those rolling drum machines, right? The 808, the 909, all the other kind of boutique ones that everyone had been using since the early 80s on, classic hip hop tracks, are now being updated later on in the decade and being used for more melodic music and across, all forms of dance music that was out at the time, house music, all that kind of stuff that was happening across the Midwest and all that. Like it's that also kind of played into this too.
What is interesting is I went to Urban Dictionary to look up the definition. It says a term originated in the 80s to refer to a music genre which featured elements of hip hop, R&B, and pop. Groups such as Belle Biv DeVoe, Guy, Heavy D, and New Edition are from this era. Isn't Every Little Step by Bobby Brown a New Jack Swing type of song? Which is interesting. Yeah, but like, didn't we say, or don't we say that Teddy Riley is really the originator of this New Jack Swing style? But this one was produced by Babyface and L.A. Reid. I mean, kind of to your earlier point that these songs all really sound like that, but there's only one produced by Teddy Riley on the album.
Right. So I think that, like I said, the people that knew, just like we talked about, or I made the comparison of like a young Kobe and like the guys knowing, the producers knew who Teddy Riley was, right?
Yeah.
And so they were attaching themselves going, man, this is kind of fly, right? It's different. And I think everybody started to take pieces and elements of that sound, but even before it was coined. So you guys may know of a little tune, maybe not, called Just Got Paid. If you listen to Just Got Paid and the guitar in that, or whatever, the fake guitar, Brian, I don't even know if it's a real guitar. That is the trajectory which leads, that's the evolution that leads to a more talented vocalist and performer on.
Did Teddy produce that?
Huh?
Did Teddy produce that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is what I'm here for.
Yeah, that's
But they sound, I mean, like after you said that, I was like, because even now, if you go out and you hear Just Got Paid and My Prerogative, like you can play them back to back and have the same feeling. And like, I still like to listen to Just Got Paid.
Yeah. It's because it's a that style went away, but it came back to music, right? It's that fusion. It's that, it's what it is. It's, as a hip hop lover, you can put a 8-bar verse on these songs. You can figure out where it fits.
Yeah. Well, Bobby tried on Every Little Step.
I was just about to say
failed miserably, but it's all right. He tried, right? It's all about the effort.
It's I mean, and first of all, Babyface, Ellery, legends, right? Absolute legends. You can hear, I can hear a more polished, a more corporate Babyface saying, you know what we need here? It'll make it hard hitting, because the production was still very clean.
Yeah. Well, they had like, especially compared to My Prerogative, the structure of Every Little Step is very like, there's a pre-chorus, which is kind of like that little snippet that no matter what your friends try to tell you, we were meant to fall in love, that kind of leads you into the chorus and rising action and brings you into the chorus. That's a very kind of traditional music structure thing to, as Tiana, you said, build emotion in a song. There are tricks you can do to make people try and feel a certain way about a song by doing those type of things. And LA was pulling out the tricks to try and do that. So one thing, and this is kind of common for the time too, for songs like this, that they wanted to chart as a pop song, they almost treated these like kind of like rap sections in the middle like guitar solos that you could edit out cleanly. So you could play it on like the top 40 station without Bobby rapping over top of it, or leave it in. In fact, I was shocked the first time I went to. I use Apple Music for all my music stuff because I don't have a good excuse. I just do. But it's on their essentials playlist. It's the version without Bobby rapping in it. I'm like, this doesn't sound right, and I had to go find it on like a different album still on there, or go to the YouTube video. Which, thank God, I found that YouTube video. I've watched that thing probably 6 times in the past 24 hours, and I enjoy it more every time. Just how ridiculous it is, especially the rapping section. How confident he is in what he's saying, which is absolute nonsense 80% of the time. Hey,
That
guys,
is so funny.
don't call him Freddie. Don't you dare call him Freddie.
Because he's ready.
He's ready.
Yeah, yeah.
Same thing. Like I forgot completely about the rap section, and because it's not on the version on Tidal either. Like, so I was listening to it, and I'm laying down at night. It's funny because I was listening to it on my way to bed last night, and I'm singing, and Cortez is like, "What?" And so then it's over, and so today I looked at the video, and I was like, "Oh, he's rapping."
Rapping. So here's my tidbit from Every Little Step. Me being the lover of words that I am. For years and years and years, as a young child, I thought that Bobby said, "No matter what your French fries tell you." For
That makes sense.
years and years. No matter what your French fries tell you. And then
We were made to fall in love.
Yeah. Some insightful fast food items. Good.
Well, and the way I justified it in my brain was, well, it's metaphoric.
Yeah.
No matter what these little, they're not even the main. They're on the sidelines, kind of like they're like a side item.
How old were you when you found out that it was French fries?
Was it this week? Please tell me it was this week where you finally figured it out.
I wish that there was a camera on me when I realized that no matter what your friends try to tell. Oh, I'm talking about mind blown, man. Like so for years I thought it was no matter what your French fries tell you, which consider how bad the rap was.
Yeah. Everything's on the table, right? Like words don't even matter now. You're just throwing words into a melody and it charts. So funny you bring up kind of words in this context though, because my prerogative was the reason I learned like what the word prerogative meant. Like I had no clue listening to that as a kid. I had to ask my parents what prerogative meant.
I remember asking. We were in the car.
Yep. So Bobby's all about vocabulary building. That's his gift to us. Was teaching us what prerogative meant.
Oh my goodness. Tiana, I feel like you have
So question. So did Babyface and L.A. Reid write that rap? Because that would make sense.
It makes a lot of sense based on what we know from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't see them giving up control of that. So don't know. I didn't see anything like that in my research I did about. I don't think Bobby is listed as a writer on that song, so my guess would be no.
Well, yeah.
But Bobby did get a writing credit on My Prerogative, which is interesting.
He did.
Yeah.
Don't you dare call him Freddie. So the word lover in me didn't have a whole lot to fall in love with between either song, but that's fine.
Right. Well,
I agree.
One more thing about Every Little Step. They used the same verse twice. He just sang it kind of different the second time. It's the exact same words.
So you said he sang it kind of different, huh?
Yeah.
Little there's a urban legend going around that Bobby was already into his not just drinking, but his drug bag at this time. They're trying to record the second verse of Every Little Step, and he's too out of it to record. And so the rumor is that his good friend and former bandmate Ralph Tresvant sings the second verse on Every Little Step. And now
I read that as well.
And now, although it's faint, I can't unhear it.
I need to listen to it again, like right now.
Yeah. But it is widely reported that the guy that kind of put that out into the universe was New Edition's original manager and was not a big fan of Bobby. So probably because, left him to go make a lot of money without them. So
yeah. So they were still good friends apparently, and it makes sense just based on what we knew from the New Edition biopic, right? It's like Ralph was always in the studio,
right?
So it's like, hey, can you do us a solid?
Yeah, and if I'm remembering timelines right, I think New Edition is recording their album, and Ralph was working on his solo album at the same time, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I mean, timelines match up.
Yeah, and so I had my wife listen to it. She's like, I still hear Bobby. And so whoever's watching this, listening to this right now, go and listen to the second super short verse. Maybe that's why I was so short.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
yeah. But the counter argument to that would be if he's so out of it and they were only tracking it, like tracking it from the beginning, only doing the first verse, they're going to have multiple takes, so they could have just used a different Bobby take of him doing that first verse. So, I mean, I love Urban Legends as much as the next guy, but I don't, especially to go this long uncredited, people talk too much. My opinion is it's Bobby, but to Baxter's point, go take a listen.
I'm definitely doing that, like immediately when we close.
Yeah. So so that's the urban legend, I mean, really from his former manager, right? Who says that, and
To Brian's point, everybody can't be Jay-Z and just do it once. I just had to throw that in there.
Well, even Jay would not come with "Don't You Dare Call Me Freddie." So I'll give Jay that.
Oh man,
because it's done in one take doesn't mean it's a good take.
Right.
Unless you're Jay.
Can we move on?
So Brian, we have a thing. Obviously, I have to throw in a Jay-Z reference every time we talk.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Baxter and I early on in our friendship, that's like half of what we talked about were Nas and Jay-Z verses. So I have no problem with that.
Okay. Cool.
It's amazing how much better Nas is than Jay. As I get older, I just appreciate.
Yeah, especially early on, like insane. Well, that's an interesting kind of like where hip hop was when this was released versus where it goes to in the early part of the 90s, like lyrically, like is insane. This is like, well, not that Bobby was an accomplished rapper by any means. There were better rappers at the time, but that this was released on the radio in 89, I want to say 88, 89.
88, 89.
And then, I mean, it was written out in 94. Is that right?
Illmatic.
Oh, I mean, that's right. It was way after that. Yeah.
But I mean, think about, this has become a hip hop portion of this pie, but like Rakim drops right at the end of the
In
90s.
88.
Yeah. And there's no way 2 years later, once people realize, like Rakim basically changed the way we would even listen to rap and listen to rhyme patterns. It was like almost like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that what I used to do because this guy's come in and sophisticated these rhyme schemes. And even though I can't do it just like him, I got to do better than what I was doing.
Right.
You know, so yeah, for sure. And you know, maybe in 90, maybe they have somebody else write the rhyme. And maybe not, it ain't Babyface, right?
Yeah. See, now I've got this like mental image of Babyface writing that, and it just makes me smile. Like sweet, like unassuming, cherub-like Babyface writing those awful lyrics for Bobby Brown just makes me happy.
So Just Got Paid is released in January of '88. I'm assuming prior to that, they even you know, like I said, they knew who Teddy Riley was, his style and sort of what was coming, right? And I feel like they all borrowed from each other. And I mean, even Babyface during that verses talked about being influenced by some of the things that Teddy was doing, even though Teddy sort of came up underneath him. I think when you have an ear for certain things and if it sounds good, it's like, how do I incorporate it into what I'm doing? I don't think it's far-fetched to say, I mean, and there are people that give Babyface and L.A. Reid a lot of credit for the New Jack Swing sound.
Right. They're not, I mean, at least in the articles I was, you know, quick Google search type stuff, they're not brought up much. And that was kind of surprising to me, especially with this album, some of the other, and the progression of R&B through the early part of the 90s. Like they kind of, if they weren't the originators, they kind of carried the torch with like bringing it more to the masses throughout like the early part of the 90s.
That's what they did. They made it more mainstream, but it was definitely a lighter version. When you hear Just Got Paid, I mean,
it's interesting though, because like when you hear Just Got Paid, like you said, like I still really like that song, as well as My Prerogative. Like it's those like grimy, like, you know, like the extra stuff that you put in it that's not mainstream that makes the song, you know, really memorable and lovable.
There's
for me.
Teddy was kind of known for kind of like sneaking in little samples that are kind of were used throughout hip hop in the 80s through the late 90s, like Funky Drummer, like a famous James Brown drum sample that get used. He would use those drum sounds. That's where he's taking this stuff from, like directly from hip hop songs into this now, kind of injecting it in sneakily, where you don't realize like that's what you're reacting to, but that's what you are.
That's what's connecting it for you.
Yeah.
Right.
But as you were talking, like in what you were just saying, Brian, it made me think of even like, you know, music today. There are these sounds that we like. There are things that just work over time. And that's why we have all these samples, you know, over time.
I'll give you guys another song that you may or may not be as familiar with. It's by Keith Sweat. It was released in September of '87. Right, Just Got Paid was released in January of '88, per my you know, Google research. The song called "I Want Her."
Yeah, we know that song.
Yeah,
the little tune you may have heard of. Again, there is a more rugged sound.
Yeah,
that you feel. It's like, I'm not a dancer, but these songs, you almost feel like you could dance to them, but you also could like, there was like a smokiness around them. I don't know what else how to describe it, but like when you think about Every Little Step, and not even Ronnie, because Ronnie does, I love Ronnie,
Yeah.
but Don't Be Cruel. There's like a little edge, but it's like it's not a real edge.
There's grime is what you might be looking. There's a little. It's not dirty, but it's just not quite polished, right?
Everything production in the 80s became very clean with the drum machines, right?
Yep.
And there were no misses anymore because there wasn't a real person playing this music.
Right.
And so when you try to infuse hip hop and these drums in there, Every Little Step, Don't Be Cruel. You know what it is? I Want Her, Just Got Paid, My Prerogative have a rock element in them.
And a little more up tempo too. They're dance songs. Like all of those are like club dance songs, right? Every single, like you're trying to, that's what you're trying to get the listener to do, is to get out of their seat and,
like they dancing hard to these songs. Like you can't dance hard to Every Little Step. You just not I mean, I'm talking from a non.
Well, Bobby did in that, like that weird little hop move they did for like about 3 minutes straight was pretty hard.
I feel like, a lot of these songs, Don't Be Cruel too, they're dance songs. Like as a dancer, a lot of the Bobby songs from the album are dance songs. Mm-hmm. But these songs are not dance songs that you would choose to put choreography to. They're dance songs that you would play at a party that you want to like.
They're more mainstream.
Yeah.
So and this goes perfectly to what we've been talking about. There's this commercial element of Every Little Step, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It wins a Grammy. But it does not chart as high as My Prerogative. There's just a connection that people felt, although it did really well on its own, in its own right. My Prerogative hit a nerve, struck a chord that you just can't imitate it.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about these songs, like the I Want Her, My Prerogative, and what was the other one? Just Got Paid. Like, first of all, I'm about to throw those on a playlist and let Tyro make me a playlist for the rest of my day. But like, is it the Teddy Riley factor? Like those songs, I sort of lost my train of thought, but it's coming back. Those, what was I about to say? I was gonna say, yeah, like those songs and like the New Jack Swing, I feel like we're talking about it a lot more lately, and when it comes to like music genres or subgenres, like that kind of gets lost. Like it's not a genre that I feel like really gets its due in a lot of ways. But when you go back to listen to those songs, they make you feel so good. Like everybody still likes them. But I wonder, like, what is it about it that just didn't have the meat, like they didn't stick around though?
They were, well, go ahead, give your more technical.
No, I really didn't have much. I don't know. I love this music and had, like, since it came out, like this is, I was, 9 to, like, New Jack Swing probably ends, the last Boys to Men run in like 96, you would say that's still considered new. I mean, definitely early New Jack Swing for that, but like that 8 years is when I was like listening to a ton of music, like I still like enjoy these songs. Like I said, I've had this stuff on playlists for years, so I don't know.
Let's can we show a little love to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis?
Okay, yeah, them too.
Thank God. Like I was trying to sneak them in, but not really New Jack Swing, but their run with the New Edition album, Rhythm Nation, like all that, like those 3 years, that's other stuff I come back to all the time too. You want to talk about an album with a ton of singles? Like Rhythm Nation had like 7 singles, and they're
Rhythm
all top
Nation
10,
was my favorite.
as it should be.
so Rhythm Nation, right? There's an edge to it,
Yeah.
but it's still clean. It's still a
Well,
little.
I think that's the, in my opinion, that's the Prince influence on Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. You know, but by the way, we have not talked about Prince nearly enough on this podcast yet. So we need to do that sometime soon. Not, or Prince adjacent stuff. How about that? Prince would be a 3-hour podcast for us, I think.
Sure. But there, so Janet, right? These all these, so Jimmy Jam, these guys are all competing. They're all in the same, and at this point, they see Teddy, like they're all sort of borrowing from one another, right? But there's a street element to what Teddy is doing that either the other two, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, or Babyface and and L.A. Reid, they just can't tap into, or just don't think that they need it.
Okay.
There's just something a little cleaner. Prodigy from Mobb Deep. Rest in peace, Prodigy. He has a line where he says, we're too gritty like Sanford and Son. We're like Pigpen with jewels on. That's what we love about hip hop. We love that you can represent yourself as grand, but there's still like a grit about you that Jimmy Jam and those guys would never be able to replicate, because they just weren't from it sound wise like Teddy was.
Well, do you think maybe can also be, hip hop, originating, being incubated in New York? Like that's just kind of the sound of that city where, LA and Babyface are down in Atlanta doing all their stuff. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are up in Minneapolis messing around with Prince and everything they were doing. Do you think if Teddy being a native New Yorker and growing up through that era had something to do with it?
His first song was literally like The Show with Dougie Fresh.
Yeah, he was an engineer on The Show. That's crazy.
And Slick Rick, like this is where this is Teddy, right? And so when we hear Keith Sweat, who we we don't talk about enough, and I imagine he heard Just Got Paid. I'm sure there's a story going around why he didn't pick it up or choose it, but it's like I'm your guy.
Yeah.
Like Teddy did almost all of the stuff that we know from Keith Sweat, early Keith Sweat. How you let this random dude get this Just Got Paid, bro? Like that has me all over, right? There's a sound that Teddy's working on that just can't be duplicated by the mainstream guys at that point, right? There's an edge, but so let's try to bring it back to my prerogative. The album is done, but Bobby feels like there needs to be something else, right? Let me just try to tie in Janet with Control, how she was basically stepping out of her own, what you remember me as, to like this grown person. Bobby needed something to put his stamp on who he was going to become. Ronnie, none of those things, those songs could go to anyone during that same time.
Right.
My prerogative cannot.
Right. Well, and we touched on it earlier. It's the only song on that album he gets a writing credit on, right? He who knows what he actually contributed, but he wanted to put his name on that one and not the other. Well, if Babyface or LA would have let him put his name on any of those, but whatever. But yeah, he definitely, it feels like very much a Bobby song, especially from the things we saw later in his career. That is Bobby Brown being Bobby Brown, right?
Mhm.
Especially him just like brazenly just shit talking for the last like 20 seconds of that song. For no, that's the rapping section is just Bobby like just talking to his haters for no good reason. Like, you don't need to do that. You've already stated this.
That's hip hop, though.
I know.
Babyface would have never let that go, right? So the story that I hear Teddy tell is Bobby likes the song, doesn't like the way Teddy wants him to perform the song. The way you hear it on the record is not the way, is the way that Bobby did not want to perform it. Okay. They get into an argument. Bobby walks out the studio. He does not, he doesn't like it. And so Teddy goes, well, I wasn't even really upset. I was just gonna give the song to someone else. Like, I knew what I had.
Right.
So, luckily for Bobby and for us, right, that he comes back, he trusts, and he tried to, hey, just trust me, right? So when I hear that story, I'm thinking, what part did Bobby write? And was it just the writing credits at the end, the shit talking piece? Did he have
or saying Teddy's name like 3 or 4 times in that record too? Like, Prince, is that just an ad lib, or did he actually like did he not know the mic was on? It was just kind of just talking during that. Who knows? Like, that could be his writing credit,
Right. Maybe that was it, or maybe there are some things specifically that Bobby wanted to change. Who knows?
Right.
But because at that point, Bobby's still a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Hip hop wasn't as forgiving, but you could make a bad album, R&B album, and just make a better one next time, and you would be okay, right?
Right.
So maybe there was more collaboration because Teddy wasn't Teddy yet at that point.
Right.
But yeah, I wonder what the song looked like before what Bobby added to it.
Right.
Tiana, did you want to add anything to that?
No.
Shout out to Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis.
Yep.
Man, great production. Why didn't it continue? It's because shit just got edgier. Just the sound of music got edgier.
Yeah, and I don't think Bobby his next album, when Mr. Brown came out, like 93?
92.
It's 92? Yeah, I mean, a lot happened in those 3 years. Everyone else from New Edition getting their solo albums out there, Bell DeVoe getting their group album out there, all that kind of changed, like, the sound of where, music was going, pop music was going, let alone R&B.
But I don't remember, but it all sounded like New Jack Swing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I don't necessarily mean like, why didn't it continue? Because, the sound of music changes over time. But like, why isn't it like, for me, I don't feel like people are, I guess, until recently, I don't feel like people had really acknowledged this sound as much and its influence over music as much as, I don't know, like jazz or whatever else people talk about.
Yeah.
Jazz as a genre, New Jack Swing was sort of like a moment in music, and I think what you're saying, T, I think, is that it just wasn't. It became too mainstream. It wasn't cool anymore. Because I don't know where I read this or where I heard this, but Bell Biv DeVoe, what's their big one?
Poison.
Poison.
Poison. I remember reading somewhere that was a complete jack of the Teddy Riley sound. Like,
I can see that, and I went down that rabbit hole last night too. Yeah, that was like the guy that produced that was like, he did that and like a handful of other things and was gone. So it wasn't his sound. You could tell he was imitating someone else's sound to try and get a hit, which he did. It's a great song, but he's not the originator, you know.
Yeah.
So we talk about Bobby being the first one, but everyone else, you know, kind of went solo. Don't Be Cruel was released on the same day as New Edition's album, Any Heartbreak. He started out opening for those guys, which is ironic that you leave a group and then you end up opening for the same group. And then Don't Be Cruel was such a big hit. He did a world tour after that.
Jeez.
Like, I don't know what the numbers were like that year. I think now it's up to like 12 million, but at one point it was like 8 million, which was a big deal.
Right.
You know, and which talks about the Ghostbusters soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
It was like immediately following the album. And why
like I said, they released another single after, like, Rock With You was the 5th single that came out after the Ghostbusters single. They did that song. They said like 3 weeks between like writing it to it being on radio was 3 weeks. They pretty much copied every little step, turned the tempo up just a little bit, let Bobby rap twice on that one. That's another kind of like guilty pleasure song of mine. I always crack up because I think they showed Bobby like the trailer and like the first 5 minutes of the movie and said, "Here, write a rap about the movie." There you go. Like that's all it is like the first scene and like overarching like story of the movie. That's it. It makes no sense.
But when you're on fire like that, they figure out a way to exploit that popularity, right?
Yeah, and the video was the same too. I'm thinking back on it. It's the same thing that we connected to, that all white background with the letters and stuff, and then clips of the movie. Like they were writing that every little step wave hard going into '89. So
can't blame them.
Nope.
Can't blame them. And then 92, the third album, which is almost completely done by Teddy Riley, right? So you knew, you know where Bobby's going,
right?
And kind of where his heart is, and where he thinks his sound is,
right?
I imagine that the some of the softer stuff was another reason he was trying to get away from New Edition in the first.
Right. I mean, it's no secret, you know, Don't Be Cruel is his most successful album, both chart-wise, single-wise, all that stuff. Outside of My Prerogative, like everything else was, you know, the hit makers of the next 10 years with L.A. Reid and Babyface, right?
Yeah.
But if you ask somebody, you know, what are your 3 favorite Bobby Brown songs, or just name me a Bobby Brown song, My Prerogative is going to be in there. And, you know, Humping Around off of the next album is probably in there too. If the songs you like, that's a Bobby Brown song.
Speak for yourself.
That Teddy Riley sound is, what's that?
Speak for yourself.
That's fair enough. But those are the songs, you know, you identify with Bobby Brown, is that, you know, Teddy Riley sound, you know.
Humping Around. Who did that?
I thought it was off that next album, so I figured it was Teddy Riley.
Again,
I'll look that up on the fly.
So now you guys must choose one of these songs that you can only listen to for the rest of your life. Every Little Step or My Prerogative.
My Prerogative.
Why, T? And are you sure about that?
Yes. I'm sure. Because honestly, like I haven't listened to Every Little Step for like intentionally for like the last 10 years. Whereas I probably have listened to My Prerogative and I just like it better.
Better song or favorite song?
I think that it is my favorite of the two.
But not a better song?
They're pretty even, honestly, in my opinion, because I like words, right? So they don't really give me much in that way, but I like the way that My Prerogative makes me feel better, but I feel like Every Little Step is probably more technically better.
So with that, I think Baxter already knows what I'm going to say. Technically, musically, do I like the feeling of Every Little Step is something that, you know, has kept it on playlists for so long, right? But I'll actually say, not just because of the rapping on My Every Little Step, but it definitely played into it. My Prerogative is actually a better song. Like structurally, like you want to make a pop song, that's a better song than Every Little Step. I just like the elements of Every Little Step better and would choose to listen to it over My Prerogative if given the choice.
I listen to Every Little Step. I mean, they're both on a playlist that I have, probably several. If I had to listen to one for the rest of my life, and maybe it's just my dad brain talking, it would be Every Little Step, which I can't even realize I can't believe I'm even saying it. But the other thing, the fact that we can listen to two verses and that recycled verse on Every Little Step, it says pop. It says pop. It says, you know what? We don't need much. We got a good sound here. And we wrote these subpar bars because the song wasn't long enough. They didn't have enough content. But there's a grit not only to the sound of My Prerogative, but the sound and the texture of Bobby's voice.
Yeah.
It was probably closer to his natural voice that we identified with too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could also make the argument, you know, My Prerogative was, you know, covered, you know, what, 10 years later? Like Britney Spears had a hit with that, like not even 15 years later.
2004, yeah.
Which I forgot about until I actually went in Wikipedia article and found like, oh yeah, she did release that. And
she did.
That was a #1 hit in a lot of countries, which is, you know, kind of says it is a well-written song, you know.
Huh. Yeah, and I just like when people talk shit on songs. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Can we get into a few lyrics really quick and then we can get out of here?
One thing, so I looked up Humping Around. You're never gonna guess who actually produced that. L.A. Reid and Babyface. That sounds nothing like this album. What's that?
Still in Teddy's sound.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, like it's not even like it's. Yeah, it's blatant.
I'm kidding. I don't have anything to say about any of these lyrics.
Do we want to talk about French fries again?
No matter what your French fries tell you. I know I'm not the only one. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, please comment. Tell me that I wasn't alone thinking that it was no matter what your French fries tell you. Please, someone, shoot me some bail here.
Yeah, I really hope someone else misheard that just for your sake, man. Because, yeah.
So, so we had Don't Be Cruel, My Prerogative, Roni,
Mm-hmm.
Every Little Step is the first 4 singles off of that album. You guys, which one did you pick, B? If you can only listen to one?
I picked Every Little Step, even though I'm admitting that My Prerogative is a better song.
Okay. So we have, and then I said Every Little Step, which I still don't believe I'm saying it. Would you swap out Roni or Don't Be Cruel if you had a chance to swap it out for Every Little Step?
You're saying I'm swapping out Every Little Step for one of those 2 songs?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Why don't I get to play? I mean, I didn't choose Every Little Step, but if I did.
No, you chose My Prerogative. You're next.
Oh, okay.
So do you want to swap out either Roni or Don't Be Cruel?
I don't, but I wanna swap Roni with if I had chose Every Little Step.
Okay.
I think I take Roni over them both.
Really? See, that was a song I wasn't as familiar with until I started just listening to that album front to back. I don't remember that being. I remember the other first 2 singles. I don't remember Roni, and obviously I remember Every Little Step, but I don't remember that being on the radio.
I love it.
You want
I
to hear
might
some
want
bad
to switch
singing?
it out.
You want to hear some bad singing?
No thanks.
Turn Roni on. It gives me the grace. That's that traditional 80s ballad that we like, man.
See, I thought you were
Does
gonna
he
bring Rock with
does
you.
he Nehu on the song? I don't think it's a Nehu. You know how all the 80s R&B songs have the Nehu? I'm not gonna.
Well,
Yeah, you try and hit that real falsetto high note.
That's not what Bobby did well, no.
Yeah,
No.
But he also has the rap in Roni.
Man.
That one wasn't as bad as the one in
It's
Every
really
Little Step just goes on forever. And he says nothing the entire time. It's all just, let's just find 2 random words that rhyme together and throw some nonsense before each of them.
the difference between Roni and Every Little Step is he just sort of raps the words that he had already been singing. They weren't different.
Yeah.
Brian, whenever you pour yourself a cocktail today or tomorrow or whenever, put on Roni. You'll feel different about it.
Okay.
I'm expecting a text going, you know what? You were right.
Okay.
So I would take Roni over both of these. And that's the old school. I still like a good ballad in me, but I think that My Prerogative is more meatier and clearly was the song that was the Bobby Brown song. I mean the sound, right?
Right.
The fact that I have nothing to say about lyrics tells you what you need to know about this. We spent time making fun of me and my French fries, and then the terrible rap that was presented in the middle of that song. Any other last final sort of thoughts or tidbits from either one of these songs or the album and as a whole?
It's a really solid album. Like, none of these songs we're talking about are bad songs, right? And it kind of we talked about earlier, like there were 5 singles off of this album. You don't have that as much anymore, where you can tour off an album for multiple years type of deal, or you know, you just keep releasing radio single after radio single. Like that just isn't a thing. So it's just a solid, enjoyable album for the most part. So
I think about the cassette tape. I think about the video. I think about the Every Little Step video. I think about my cousin Sam. Cause Sam, it was Sam CD or tape.
Tape.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I think we were both living at Big My House at the time.
Mm.
And so that's how I used to hear the other songs that didn't have videos at the time. Was Sam's cassette tape.
I won't tell you what album Sam introduced me to.
Another conversation for another day. Couple other tidbits. You mentioned Every Little Step. There is a video out there on YouTube with Mike Tyson singing and performing Every Little Step. If you haven't watched it, please watch it.
Going down my rabbit hole last night before I went to bed, that was like the last thing I watched, and I watched it twice just because. I mean, Mike Tyson can't dance at all, and it's hilarious and great, and you know, respectful of the song. And then Tiana, if you haven't watched it, there's a surprise near the end that will also be very entertaining. So,
Okay.
unless Baxter, you want to ruin it for her.
No. We'll let her do that. And then we talked about Prince and our appreciation for Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Pharrell said that he wrote the song "Frontin'" for Prince.
I never heard that.
Prince was not interested in it. But if you hear the guitar, he said he wrote that obviously without the Jay-Z rhyme. He wrote
Did
that.
Prince let other people write songs for him?
Probably not much.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. And the other thing that was interesting about that, which has nothing to do with anything, is a big part of that Justin Timberlake's first album, Pharrell had written for Michael Jackson.
I'd heard
That's
that.
why Justin sounds like Michael Jackson so much, maybe.
But Michael didn't want any of them. And so he said he was on the phone with his manager. Pharrell's on the phone with Mike's manager, and he goes, "Man, Michael don't want that shit." He said he want them beats that you make for Nori.
What? Do you want to hear Michael Jackson singing over top of Super Thug? Because I really do now.
I do.
Like that's what I want. Which is funny because
isn't that a great story?
Well, I think it's that'll be like the Invincible era of Michael Jackson, right? Which I know Teddy Riley had a bunch of production credits on that one too, and writing credits. So around the same time, so like they're still kind of like tied together, you know?
Right, but
Michael Jackson, I think he had, I don't know if you guys have ever like just randomly watched hours of video about Michael Jackson on YouTube, but his personality is very interesting. Like, I think like the way that we view him in the mainstream is not very much how he was. Like, he was kind of a thug a little bit.
He had an ear to the street, right? He knew that, which is why he sought out Teddy Riley in the early 90s, right? But I give the Pharrell mention because he came up underneath Teddy Riley, him and Chad, excuse me.
Yeah.
The Neptunes came up underneath Teddy Riley in Virginia.
Well, yeah. Well, you got Pharrell right around that jet ski in the Rump Shaker video, right? And I thought for the longest time Teddy Riley was in Rex and Effects because of that. You know, the rap he has the end of that. No, it's his brother. I found that out last night. Had no clue. So
Pharrell wrote Teddy's verse. A young Pharrell Williams, who we had never heard
super
of,
young. Yeah.
wrote which is a better verse than Bobby's
Bobby Brown.
on every
Yeah.
little step.
That being a Pharrell
Very true.
verse, though, like
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we should end, man. Y'all R&B guys, step y'all bars up, man.
Right. Or just don't try it. Get those features.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Cool. This has been fun, man. Tiana, Brian, thank you guys for indulging me in this not ridiculous, because Bobby is super important to the culture, but definitely not you probably weren't expecting me to go here on our next sort of song. So
Yeah, to jump for our progression from Stevie Wonder to end up with Bobby Brown now with one move in between is quite the jump. But I enjoyed this a lot.
Honestly, I was a little disappointed because when you sent me those songs, because I had seen the other two, and I was like, "Oh, really? Like that's how you gonna do me?" But this was fun.
I get invited to the Bobby Brown. We'll have.
Maybe I would have done more research if you had given me more. Like, no.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Brian. If Brian thought that you did well, then we'll have you back.
This is your show, man. And Tiana, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us for this one. You definitely get my vote. I'd love to continue doing this.
No, this was cool. This was fun. This was fun. We gotta lighten it up a little bit, and but we'll definitely get back to some music with some live instruments soon. Sound good?
Yep.
All right, cool.
Yep.
All right, thanks again for everyone for watching. Please tell me I'm not the only one that thought that the lyric was French fries.